What's up guys, it's Tom here and welcome to a brand new Liverpool transfer news update video, and the main topic will be Alexander Isak, because after the Newcastle owners sat down with Isak, he told them face to face that he still wants to go to Liverpool, and Newcastle are now really working extremely hard, ramping up their interest for Johan Wissa and Strand Larsen, the Wolves striker, who scored two brilliant goals yesterday evening as Wolves knocked out West Ham from the League Cup. And FSG gave the all clear to Liverpool's chiefs to submit a new bid for Alexander Isak. As soon as Newcastle sign even one striker, Liverpool will go in with a bid of £120 million plus 15 to 20 million pounds of add-ons. That's what some journalists are reporting, and they have sources close to Liverpool Football Club confirming this. And Newcastle officials are in proper shock that Isak, even with meeting the owners and the chief executive face to face, he told them that he wants to leave Newcastle. There is no way back for him at Newcastle. There is absolutely no way that he will even start training again, being back in the squad. Of course, Newcastle Chiefs are worried that this will affect the morale of the Newcastle squad. I think it already affected it, and Eddie Howe wants Isak sold, because Eddie Howe is all about the team, the dressing room, people pulling in the same direction, people working hard for the squad, for the badge, for the fans, and Alexander Isak is so far away from that. And the player, Alexander Isak, has even told his teammates that he doesn't want to play for Newcastle United anymore. So now the ball is in Newcastle's court as to the next move. Of course, they could keep Isak, but that would be a really bad decision, because there is no guarantee that Isak would ever play for Newcastle again. And imagine if they keep Isak, he doesn't play until January, at least for Newcastle, and he can go for £50 million less in January. And by the way, the Swedish national team, as I predicted, have called up Alexander Isak for the international games. So Alexander Isak will play football and he will go to train with the Swedish national team. And he has the opportunity 3 times to do that, because there are 3 international breaks in September, October and November, 1 each. So Isak could spend more than 6 weeks with the Swedish national team, playing 6 games in these during these international breaks. A total of 6 games he could play for Sweden. He wouldn't be just frozen out of football totally, but he definitely doesn't want to do anything to do with Newcastle. Of course, there is always the option for Newcastle to negotiate a British transfer record for Isak, and I think Isak's behavior really forces the hand of Newcastle here. And Newcastle, of course, at least would need 1 striker, but probably ideally they would want 2 to arrive in the next few days before the transfer deadline day on Monday. Strand Larsen and Wissa have always been seen as replacements for Callum Wissa and not Isak. But if both deals progressed at the same time, it would leave Newcastle with a huge decision to make as how to proceed in the best interests of the football club. That's what Craig Hope is reporting. So there is a feeling among some people close to Newcastle that Isak's situation is beyond repair, and the sale is the best solution for all parties, not just for Isak but for Newcastle and for the owners as well, because this is really turning into a pretty toxic, very messy situation that is affecting the Newcastle dressing room, the fans, the morale of the squad, and also it interferes with the work of Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe is all about teamwork, team ethics, and also a harmonized dressing room, a united dressing room. And Alexander Isak completely ruins and disrupts that. So I think it's the best interest of all parties to sell Alexander Isak. But of course, the Newcastle regime, the Saudis, are very stubborn people. And it's going to be difficult, and this transfer could go down to the wire, to the last few days of the transfer window. But I think this wording from this Newcastle journalist is showing that Newcastle's stance is changing. Newcastle's briefing to the journalists is changing, because every day they are more and more inclined to sell Alexander Isak, because it shows that this is a toxic situation and it's not helping Newcastle at all. And Sky Sports Keith Andrews, Sky Sports journalist, is reporting, Keith Downey is reporting that all options are open and Liverpool could come back in with a new bid. Isak still would like to leave. What has been the case for a number of weeks now is that Newcastle are getting desperate when it comes to replacements. They tried Ekitike, they tried Šeško, João Pedro, Liam Delap. They have tried and failed for 8 or 9 different strikers. And if they manage to get one in, or possibly 2, there is a chance Isak may leave by the end of the transfer window. In an ideal world, they would like to have 2 replacements in. And even if they get 1 replacement in now, I think it would lead them to potentially selling Alexander Isak. And Newcastle went back with a second offer for Strand Larsen, which got rejected again by Wolves. That is for 55 million. And because this is so close to the end of the transfer window, that's why Wolves are asking for 60 to 63 million for Strand Larsen, which is absolutely crazy money. But if you think about it, it costs about 100 million pounds, maybe even more, to get relegated from the Premier League. So 60 million pounds for your top scorer, Strand Larsen, is not outrageous money when it could cost Wolves relegation if they sell Strand Larsen. So Isak's sale hinges on Newcastle getting a replacement in. And Strand Larsen could be that player, but Newcastle will probably have to bid 60 million pounds to get the deal done. And the message in recent weeks from Newcastle was so far, like before yesterday, that it would be Strand Larsen or Wissa, not both. But what if both are viable in the next 72 hours? Decisions to make. All is still at play, according to Craig Hope, as it has been all summer, with obvious impact on the Isak and Liverpool deal. So as it stands, Newcastle could sign both strikers if it can be done. And I think if the Newcastle sign 2 strikers, Isak is 100% leaving. If they sign one, that's very difficult to call. I think it's 50-50. A crucial part is Strand Larsen has told Wolves that he wants to go to Newcastle. He wants to play for Newcastle, so he would like that transfer to go through. And Brentford are working on bringing in a striker like Max Bayer from Dortmund, could be an option. And if Brentford secure a new striker, then they could sell Johan Wissa. It's really frustrating from a Liverpool point of view seeing these smaller clubs getting desperate to sign a striker. Liverpool, of course, have their own striker, Ekitike, but Liverpool need one more because we don't have Jota anymore, may he rest in peace. Forever Liverpool's number 20, and Darwin Núñez was sold to Saudi Arabia. I think Liverpool didn't expect Newcastle to be this incompetent in the transfer window. I think Liverpool expected Newcastle to get a couple of strikers in maybe by the middle of August, and then we could easily and comfortably negotiate the sale of Alexander Isak or the transfer of Alexander Isak. But right now, it's getting dangerously close to transfer deadline day. But if Newcastle decide to keep Isak, that's a mighty gamble, almighty gamble, because what if he doesn't change his mind and doesn't come back to train with Newcastle and to play for Newcastle until January, then this could really backfire on them. And today it has been confirmed that Newcastle have resumed talks with Wolves on Jurgen Strand Larsen. Larsen is not being difficult, but he's open to the move to Newcastle, and he's eager to work with Eddie Howe. So at the moment, it's up to Newcastle and Wolves to agree a transfer fee, because the personal terms are not a problem with Strand Larsen. And the Wolves manager, Vitor Pereira, said that until now, Jurgen Strand Larsen is our player. And we will see what happens, but I understand football. Football is football. Every player has a price, I believe, especially if you are Wolves. But even at Liverpool, every player has a price. And if a player wants to leave and a big enough bid comes in for him, then Liverpool will also sell some players, like we have done with many players in the past. But it's crazy that even a half-decent striker at Premier League level costs 50 to 60 million pounds. And this story is huge, that Isak is sticking to his guns. Isak wants to leave still. He told this to the to the Newcastle owners, to the Newcastle hierarchy, that he wants to leave. And there is a story running parallel to this, that Newcastle are working on Strand Larsen. And I think 130 million pounds, including add-ons and bonuses, could secure this deal. Newcastle would be stupid not to take it, especially after Isak made it clear that he wants to leave face to face with the owners. And this that Newcastle are pushing so hard for Johan Wissa and Strand Larsen clearly signals that this era of Alexander Isak at Newcastle on the Eddie Howe is over. Of course, Liverpool are waiting in the shadows, just ready to strike when the moment is right. And Liverpool have been respectful, wanting to let Newcastle work on getting their strikers in, and as soon as Newcastle get even just one striker transfer over the line, then Liverpool will start bidding again. But it's absolutely painfully slow to watch Newcastle trying to scramble to get a striker transfer over the line. And I'm so happy for Federico Chiesa. It has been revealed that he has been called up for the Italy national team for the international break. And one of the reasons why Chiesa wanted to leave Liverpool at the start of the transfer window was that he feared that he wouldn't get a call up into the Italy national team because of his lack of minutes. And now he came on twice as substitute, and he was instrumental in Liverpool winning the game against Bournemouth, scoring the winning goal. And he was also pretty good against Newcastle as well, involved in the build-up before the Rio and Gomorrah won the goal in the 100th minute. And now Chiesa gets a well-deserved Italy call-up. So hopefully he will have a great season at Liverpool, he will stay, and now there is no chance of Liverpool selling Chiesa. And this is a big season ahead of Chiesa, and hopefully he can stay fit. Also big news that Hugo Ekitike hasn't been called up to the France national team, which I'm not too bothered about that, even though it's a big personal disappointment to Ekitike. He can work in Liverpool for 2 weeks, and he won't have to fly over to France to play international games, so he won't be as tired. And Liverpool will start a grueling 3-month period. September, October, November is pretty brutal, with a lot of games to come and the Champions League to come. So Hugo Ekitike will be needed and will be well rested for that, at least for that September period. And a lot of people are criticizing the referee, I think Simon Hooper was his name, in the Newcastle-Liverpool game, but he actually made a couple of bad decisions, but mostly he refereed the game okay. But the one thing that you can criticize the referee for is not policing the game in the early stages well enough. He didn't control both teams during that crazy, frantic, very physical opening period. 2 Liverpool players were booked, but no Newcastle player was booked until Anthony Gordon's crazy red card challenge on Van Dijk's back of his leg. And before that, Newcastle made a lot of fouls. And yes, he blew for some of those fouls, but he never gave yellow cards. And the 2 Newcastle fouls at the beginning were worthy yellow cards, but the referee didn't give those. And probably that made Anthony Gordon more inclined to make that challenge on Van Dijk, because he thought the referee lets you get away with a lot of things in this game. And yeah, it was a very, very dangerous tackle and a very stupid challenge. Even Alan Shearer called Anthony Gordon out for that. But yeah, the referee should have policed the game better. He should have shown a couple of yellow cards earlier to the Newcastle players. But ultimately the game wasn't won or lost because of the referee. And I'm sure Liverpool will play much, much better than what we did against Newcastle. The most important thing is the 3 points. And I think Liverpool suffered with a lack of rhythm. We had a 10-day gap between the Newcastle game and the Bournemouth game. So Liverpool didn't have a rhythm, and it showed in the lack of accurate passes that Liverpool did, especially in the first half. And that's it for today's video. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day. See you later. Goodbye.